The Open gives you goosebumps. There's no question about that. Derek Hansen with you. Scott Taylor's going to join us in just a bit. Also, Gary Dunn's going to join us. For people that might be just tuning in, maybe you're on vacation. Maybe you didn't realize this. If you're just driving home on your way home from work tonight or whatever you might be, running kids to hockey practice, might be even something going on. We did lose Travis Dunn last Wednesday. It's hard to believe it's just a week ago, and I'm still trying to kind of come to grips with it. It's really hard to believe that this is what we're talking about right now here on this Thursday late afternoon. Obviously, you can join us. I have some sound clips we're going to play a little bit later. We have a little bit of a memorial montage that we're going to play for Travis Dunn. If you did not hear Hennessy on Hockey, I got a clip I'm going to play back from that because there's no question. You look back at all the people that he touched, and so it's kind of the same. I think Tim Hennessy and Travis Dunn probably got on the same type of deal with the Rolodex, and I think they shared phone numbers of people that they knew for a very long time, and that certainly was the case. And if you listen to Hennessy on Hockey on Wednesday nights, if you listen to Travis Dunn and Scott Taylor on Thursday nights, Saturday morning over on 740 The Fan, there's no doubt that these guys were connected. They knew people. They were able to get in touch with a lot of different people throughout the country. And I mean this, literally the country. I think you could even say the continent, to be honest with you, throughout North America, maybe even worldwide, just how many people that Travis Dunn knew. And when I broke the news to Tim Hennessy after his show last Wednesday, not last night, but the Wednesday before after the show, he just got done talking to Pat Micheletti. And I think it really hit home. I don't think Travis could believe it, of course, or I should say Tim could believe it, and I couldn't believe it either. I was still in shock at the time, and so that is something, obviously, we will talk about. If you want to join us, you certainly can, 237-5948. You can text us 35270, and if you do want to tell some stories yourself, because I think for a lot of people who are listening right now who maybe make that trek up I-29 each and every weekend for UND home series, or if they've been on the road, or if they've certainly throughout their time, maybe even going up to a high school game and seeing Travis, or seeing him at a Force game or the Ice Sharks way back when. I mean, it really, for me, more than anything else, is something that I think for people, he touched so many people at that throughout his life. And obviously we're thinking a lot about his family right now, his wife Rose, his son Gary's going to be with us in just a little bit, and obviously his daughter too, Sabrina. It's one of these things we still really can't grasp. And his funeral, for people who don't know, it's been, if you go to our website, if you go to our Facebook page, everything there is, as far as the details coming up next week, it's going to be next week. And no doubt with him being originally from Winnipeg, Manitoba, I'm sure a lot of family and friends will be coming down, crossing the border there. I think a lot of the UND family is going to be heading here to Fargo for this, and it's going to be different. And I know that when we chat a little bit about what's going on with everything, that I'm probably going to be telling some stories, just not only being a friend with him to talk a little bit of hockey, but also to talk a little bit about just him as a friend at the lake and a few other things too. It's weird. It still seems very strange that we were talking about this. And I know that it's hit all the way to the people that are, near and dear to the UND family, and whether it be head coach Brad Berry, former coaches, this has affected them as well. Scott Taylor's with us, the co-host of this program. And Scott, we talked to you last week on our sister station on the Jack Michaels show, and I guess 8 days later, it still doesn't seem real to me. I still can't believe that this is actually happening. I mean, to think that Travis isn't here to chat a little bit about what's coming up for this big weekend series with UND at Denver and everything that's going on in the NHL after the All-Star break, it's still very surreal. Can you hear me, Scott? Oh, maybe not. First, we'll turn. Oh, you can't hear for some reason. But hopefully down the road we can, just chat about that a little bit. And I'm sure that I just think about, and for the go-to guy, I'm thinking Friday night, late night game for UND hockey. It was kind of my go-to guy, right? Friday night ice, to chat a little bit about what's going on in the world of hockey with him. It just seems very, very strange that that's not, someone I'm going to be able to kind of have as my go-to guy there. So about that, if you like, and kind of get everything going there. And You can also text us at 35270 if you do want to tell stories, because that is one thing that is very, very interesting when we just kind of talk about everything that's going on with this sad passing of our good friend Travis Dunn. So, uh, talking a little bit about Travis, we will chat a little bit about that too. I know it's something, the show must go on, unfortunately, and that's just kind of where we're at with everything. Certainly love to get your thoughts, and I know Scott's having a tough time hearing me right now, so we'll try to get that all squared out as well. But when we come back, we hopefully will have Gary Dunn in. We'll Travis's son. We also want to hear from you, and hopefully we'll get Scott Taylor on. This is Game On Hockey, a memorial to Travis Dunn here on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO. Obviously, looking back on Travis Dunn's his life, I know that Gary's son's going to be in here in just a little bit, and we'll chat with him. We're trying to get hooked up with here with Scott Taylor, and we'll chat a little bit about everything that's obviously the services next week, and just a very a tough. Able to come in contact with over the years, right?
Yeah, no kidding. He's definitely been able to achieve some, in my opinion, pretty amazing things.
And as far as his Rolodex, kind of second to none as well. All
Absolutely.
the people he came in contact with. I mean, he was not one person to be very braggadocious about his talents, his championships or whatever. He kind of always would talk about all of his friends that he played with, everyone else. I'm sure you took that away from too. The humble part of your father too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely was always about the relationships,
Yeah.
about getting out there and meeting people, getting to know people.
Yeah. Just chat a little bit about kind of growing up. He didn't seem to ever. He wanted you to do your own thing too, right? Did you play hockey as a youngster and a little bit, but I think he wanted to find your own path too, right?
Yeah, I played from grade. I started in second grade and
Mhm.
played through seventh or eighth grade. I guess you could say I didn't inherit the gene.
Well,
Uh, I definitely enjoyed. I have a lot of love for the game, but I just I didn't have the talent.
yeah. Well, I think more than anything is what's funny about that to me is he always felt like he didn't have the talent, but he worked so hard to get where he was at too, right? I mean, he walked on,
Absolutely,
and I think that's something I'm sure that if anything that you did, you wanted to probably inspired you a little bit too, right?
definitely.
Yeah. As far as the family life at home, everything like that. I mean, I met you a couple times at the lake, I think, and
Yeah,
it was those times I think that he cherished as much as anything else with your mother and your sister and you. I mean, I think that was something that, without question, was something that he probably it was first and foremost for everything.
no question about it.
And what was as far as golfing and all that? Did you pick up the golfing gene from him? You like to do that anyway?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same story there. I enjoy it. I know I'm not able to get out as much as I would like to be able to, for one reason or another. But
Yeah, I was one who could never really hit him straight either, so don't feel bad about that. Hockey players, for whatever reason, I guess is all the wrist action, whatever, they could really get all that going. Um, as far as just talking about his ties, he always had that connection from Manitoba, down to here too. I think that was something I think he cherished as much as anything. His connections from Fargo all the way up to kind of his home area too, and so I'm sure you have family back there, and I'm sure they were shocked to hear the news too.
yes, they certainly were. Yeah, he was very proud to be Canadian, be from Winnipeg.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And he's probably a Jets fan more than anything else. I mean, I think that was one thing that we kind of can take from that is he was we try to get him to like the Wild, but I think the Jets were always in his blood, weren't they?
Yeah, he never was a guy that just had a team. He
Yeah.
always that was always something I'd be like, Dad, you can't just kind of like the Wild and the Jets in the same division. You have to pick one or the other. But
Yeah.
that was just kind of the guy he is. It was the competitive aspect. As much as he was a competitor, it wasn't about,
Right.
trying to be better than anyone else, if that makes any sense.
No question. I think did he talk much about his relationship with Gino Gasparini? Like he said, he walked on, he was able to work his way and kind of scratch and claw his way onto the lineup. Did he talk about that? I'm sure it was almost like a second father to him, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing with coaches like that, they kind of become that way too. So and also other brothers, I think you every time we listen to the show, I don't think there's any question. One thing he really did cherish was the fact that he had all these connections and guys that he went to college with are some of his best friends still to this day. It's just amazing how you can do that. I don't have that as much, but I think when you win a national championship together, it kind of comes with the territory.
Yeah, it's pretty rarefied air.
Yeah. tomorrow night when I have my Couch Potato Radio show, I have a little clip from him and Dave Christian. You ever talk much about Dave Christian? Obviously, the gold medal winner, part of the Miracle team.
Yeah.
That would have been on the 1980 team, but that is really something that
you can hear me?
I think that he cherished that relationship as much as anything else. And here's the guy from Warroad, Minnesota, and a guy from the Manitoba area, but still have a lot of common there.
Yeah, he lived just down the street from us on Riverside.
In Moorhead, huh?
Yep.
Scott Taylor, I think we got you with us, and
Hey.
yes, we got her going, and Gary Dunn is with us, Travis's son. I don't know if there's anything that you want to mention, but certainly it's hard to believe that 7 days out that we're still talking about this and probably still in disbelief.
Great to meet you, Gary, for the first
Likewise.
time. I've heard so much about you, so much. My deepest sympathies for the loss of your dad.
Thank you.
I'm a huge fan, have been for a long time, and I was heartsick when your mom called. I hope you guys are holding up okay, and it's been a week and I miss him dearly. I don't even know what to say to you, but I'm so sorry for your loss.
I appreciate that.
So tell me about your dad and what he meant to you, because you had some rough times too, and your mom and dad were at your side all the time. Tell us that story.
Oh, absolutely. It was absolutely challenging for all of us. Not a fun time, but a lot of it really was from him, just the endless positivity. I'm sure you've picked up on that from working with him over the course of his radio journey.
Well, yeah, that's what he was. It was, I will go to my own grave remembering this line. We are the luckiest people in the world to get to do this each and every Thursday night. And he said it more than once on every broadcast, and he was absolutely right. We were very, very fortunate to have that opportunity, and very fortunate to have the friendship that we had. I had first met your dad in about 1977 or 78 when he was playing in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League. He went to Grand Forks, and I did a story on him playing for the Old Sioux. And then we essentially parted. I don't think I saw your dad for another 35 years. And then one day out of the blue, he calls me and says, "Come on and do my Saturday morning radio show." And all of a sudden we were best friends. And it was a very, very rewarding 5 or 6 years that I was able to have with Travis, and it was because of that positivity all the time. There was never a problem. Can't get a guest? We'll get somebody else. We don't like that guest? We'll invite him back and see if he does better the second time. Like, it was always up, 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 yay, 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 and I love hockey. And I think for me, the most important thing about it was the show that we did together was strictly Travis's vision. He wanted wanted to do something that bridged the whole upper Midwest. Minnesota, North Dakota, Manitoba, bits of Saskatchewan that get KFGO, South Dakota, all of this area, to talk about the hockey that keeps us together. And until that show came out, I don't think a lot of people in our region understood that in the Manitoba Junior Hockey League, there are 6 U.S. players on every team, or every team has the right to have 6 U.S. players. So that opportunity existed for kids to come from Minnesota and North Dakota to play hockey in Manitoba. At the same time, there were Manitobans playing for the Fargo Force. There were Manitobans at UND. There were Manitobans playing hockey at Warroad Collegiate. All of these things kind of bridged us and kept us together, and we were able to grab guests from both sides of the border, and it was an absolutely tremendous year and a half. We were able to do this show, and that was all because of Travis. I was just along for the ride.
Absolutely, and he was so excited to do it too.
And that's it. Just it. I've been in this business for a long time, and he at his age, he had so much passion to do it. I was like, man, that feels like me when I wanted to do sports talk when I was younger too. And I loved his energy each and every day he came in the building to do this show. It was really, really impressive. On the phone line right now is a blast from the past too. John McLaughlin is, certainly
Hi.
Hey, John, how are you doing?
Ruth, from you, and my heart just sank because it was 50 years ago that I went to UND in '72, and I kept stats for Gary's dad, and or number two, but he was better than number two, and he on defense. I mean, he was just awesome. Just an awesome defensive player. We always kidded with him and Scotty Marvin, not scoring many goals, right, Derek?
Right. Well, and Scott, you and I talked about. He was so humble. He never wanted to give himself any credit at all, and obviously, I think I almost joked all the time that he liked to be like the Bob Uecker of hockey, of college hockey, but he was a lot better than he gave himself credit for because he hit cleanly, but he could hit. He was a big guy, 6'5", and I think that's the one thing, Scott, as you mentioned, it was who was it that was on with you guys that said, yeah, well, you're kind of selling yourself short there, Scott.
I would say
Travis,
to you
you did
when we
just
had Craig
fine.
Ludwig on, he essentially laughed at Travis on the show. He laughed in his face because Travis went on with this typical self-deprecating approach to the way he played. Well, I never scored a goal, and I didn't get drafted, and I didn't play in the NHL. And Craig Ludwig, I think, almost gave him a lecture about how that was not at all indicative of the way he played. It was not indicative of what he meant to the team, because there's the other part of Travis that people might not. I mean, we've talked about it, but in the locker room, he was a teammate. And you're very fortunate when you get a great teammate. And that's what he was. Always upbeat, always cheering his own guys. If he didn't get a lot of ice time, it didn't matter to him because he was on the bench cheerleading the guys who did. He was the player who went to camp his first year as a walk-on and kept his head down and didn't complain and didn't say that I should be there and they shouldn't. Never said a word, just went out and played and forced the coaching staff at UND to put him in the lineup. And I tell this to kids, that's what you have to do as a hockey player. You don't get anything handed to you. No matter how good you are, you get a full ride scholarship. And if you don't come in and play well, a coach can lose his job if he loses too many games. And if you're a problem, you're going to be benched. He doesn't want problems. And Travis Dunn was never a problem. And that's why That's why coaches wanted him on the team, and that's why he made UND, and that's why he won national championships, and that's why he has so many friends. That's the
no question. John, you can back us up. I mean, you saw most of those games. Travis was a lot better than he wanted to give himself credit for.
1980 championship team, and Lee Bonet and Dave Beach, God rest their souls too. I mean, they were just great to work with. And Verge Foss, I mean, what a guy. I mean, he was always there for the Herald. And I just, I think Tim Hennessy, this is 45 years for Tim, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. God. Yeah, pretty amazing. All right, John.
Thanks for the show. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for calling. I do appreciate it. Obviously, kind words there. No doubt. Gary Dunn's with us again. Travis Dunn's son, Derek Hansen, Scott Taylor again, looking back on the life of the great Travis Dunn. Did he mention much about his time at camp with the St. Louis Blues? I mean, I think it was one of those things where he was like, no, I'm going to go back and live a normal life after he didn't make it and play throughout the minors and all that. But I think he was very happy he had the experience. Would that be safe to say?
Yeah, definitely. That's pretty much exactly how it was, how you laid out. It was, he recognized that he didn't have maybe what it quite took to go the next step, which just was what it was.
Yeah.
But that was just to have the experience, just to be there.
Well, and I think, Scott, too, and this following all these junior leagues and, even college hockey and USHL and, all the minor leagues, systems that feed into the NHL, it's a grind. I mean, there's no guarantees at the end of it either, Scott. So yeah, I think for someone who kind of wanted to maybe go and raise a family and all that, this probably wasn't for him. And I think he made the right choice, which not everyone can say that.
Well, he went to the camp and ended up getting sent to Salt Lake. And I think he lasted a couple of games. And when he was there, I think what went through his head was, I have a university degree. I can do something else. Do I want to grind it out in the Central League and someday get called up by St. Louis? Maybe. Or do I want to start now, just becoming an adult? I mean, I think everybody would like to play pro hockey, and there's a lot of guys who go through that grind. There's a lot of guys who play years in the East Coast League. They play years in the American Hockey League and never make it to the NHL. And boy, that's a different breed of cat for me. I think it was that way for Travis. I think he saw that it was time to grow up. Hockey was great. I'm not going to be an NHL star. I'm going to be lucky to get there. Let's go to work. And that's exactly what he did, and raised a family, and a great one too. Yeah,
for sure. There's no question about that. Scott Taylor, Derek Hansen, Gary Dunn is with us talking about the Travis Dunn. If you want to join us, 237-5948, 1-800-805-3346. You can text us 35270. I do find it funny too. You get these guests, such a big, person on his, looking at him, he accomplished so much at UND and all that. And he rubbed shoulders, but it's almost like he's starstruck, which with each and every person that he had on the air too, which I always love, because I just love the fact that he got that way. Because a lot of us lose that luster, Scott, you and I doing what we've done for such a long time, but he never lost that. I love that about him.
Well, I think one of the reasons why he'd gotten the taste, Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, but he got the taste of being a color commentator with our old friend Pat Sweeney.
Right. Yep.
He
did, yes.
Pat doing the UND games. And when that kind of run ended and Pat moved on and things changed there, I think he always wanted to get back into it. And now that he was back into it, everybody he had on the show, to him, was a superstar. And we had junior hockey players, high school players. But to Travis, it was the first time they'd met, and this was a big deal. And he was thrilled to have them, and he made it so easy for them to talk. He was a great interviewer because he was just basically a nice guy, and you ended up in a conversation with him. It wasn't a back and forth in any way. And it was Travis's personality that brought the personality of these young players out.
No question. For some reason, Eric, I cannot get my name thing to be pop up here. So who do we got on the line here?
We have got caller Jim is on the line, and he was a golfing buddy of Travis's in Detroit Lakes.
Hey, Jim, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm good. And Gary, how are you? This whole thing is devastating. I thought maybe I'd tell you about Travis on the golf course. He was a pretty good golfer, and he had one of those typical golf swings of a hockey player.
He sure was.
The last time I saw Travis was when he took me with him to Grand Forks on I think it was January 14th, to see a game. He and I talked about hockey some, but we more often talked about golf. And he was always trying to improve his game. And every once in a while he would, maybe I got to buy a new putter, or maybe I got to buy a new driver. You know how that is. But gosh, he was a wonderful man who loved his family. He talked about his children a lot. He talked about Rose a lot. And he was just the perfect guy that you wanted to spend, 4 hours with on a golf course. And we did that, usually twice every weekend throughout the entire summer, from actually spring into fall. And I'm going to miss him an awful lot. And, but what a wonderful man, and a wonderful example from a whole bunch of different perspectives. And I'd like to thank you guys for having this program and for doing a lot of other things. Of course, Joel Heidkamp was a very good friend of Travis's. And anyway, He was a good golfer too, and loved to talk about golf. And I'm going to miss him.
Yeah, no
I'm gonna
doubt.
miss him as well. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you so much, Jim, for calling in. And well, as you mentioned, Joel Heitkamp, a very good friend to Travis, and he is with us right now as well. And Joel, I think you can pretty much echo everything that Jim said. He hit the nail right on the head there.
Oh, he did. And I'm so glad golf got brought up, because that was such a huge part of Travis's life. He was an athlete. First and foremost, he was an athlete. But when Travis came through my door and I got a chance to meet him, I hope I can draw a little bit of a picture here. I was younger than Travis at the University of North Dakota, but the people that I hung out with that knew hockey, and I didn't, I was just a fan, but that knew hockey. When anyone would go into the power play against the Fighting Sioux, they would make sure Travis was on that ice. And nobody scored when Travis was on that ice. He was good, and it got noticed. And of course, the people that knew hockey didn't care who was putting the puck in the goal, because they knew there was way more to it than that. And when he pitched me and we talked about a hockey show, he mentioned Scott a lot. So I'm glad to hear Scott sharing memories as well. And he talked about Gary a lot. But when he talked about the show, he talked about how, Joel, if I do this, I want to do it at all levels. I want to talk about the people that might never play college hockey, but that love the sport of hockey. And he said, I don't want this to be just about the University of North Dakota and professional hockey. I want it to be at all levels. And of course, I was a fan of the shows, and to listen to him and Scott talk, they did it. They did exactly what they said they were going to do. They made it a hockey program for everyone. And it was the easiest decision I made, and one of the best decisions I ever made, to say, Travis, go get him. And I want to thank Scott, and I want to thank Gary for sharing it. And Gary, to Rose and your sister, just thank them, because, the time that he put into this was time away from you. And he left a legacy. So I really appreciate it from all of us on KFGO. I want to thank you.
All right. Very good, Joel. Thank you so much for calling in. Do appreciate it. We'll talk to you again very soon.
You bet.
You bet. Joel Heitkamp, again, host of News and Views here. And Scott, I think you can echo that. I mean, it was a vision. You said it was a vision by Travis here on KFGO to just bring it to the forefront, and for people to kind of know the ins and outs of radio. As we get a little bit darker, we go directional at night and shoots right up to your backyard, so it was just a perfect, template of what you want to do straight up I-29.
Absolutely. And the response that we got up here was really overwhelming to me. And I think it was really brought out the night we had on Alex Ponovic. Now, I don't know whether you know Alex Ponovic. Are you a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
Yes.
Alex Ponovic is the bro in the bro gang in Hawkeye. And he's the head bro.
Yeah.
So he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's a big star with Snowpiercer on TV, and he has a number of science fiction shows he does, and he's quite often the heavy on a lot of movies. He's the tough guy. And of course, he's the bro moving company, the Kingpin's
right.
henchman in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Alex came on because he's such a big Winnipeg Jets fan. He lives in Vancouver where he does the movies, but he's a big Winnipeg Jets fan. And we had a night of Winnipeg Jets conversation. And Travis thought at the time we were just having a hockey player on, because Travis wasn't big into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And a day later, a couple of the kids around your station, the younger guys, came up and said, "You had Alex Ponovic. He was on the show. He's the dude, bro, man. He was the guy." And suddenly, I've got Travis about every month or so saying, "You going to give Alex another call? You going to call Alex? You going to get Alex back?" Because everybody loved Alex Ponovic. So we went from having a guy from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to an entire show of female hockey, to Mark Chipman, the owner of the Winnipeg Jets, to Tim Madigan, author and former writer for the student newspaper at the University of North Dakota, who right now is getting a show prepared for Broadway. Those were the kinds of shows we had. It wasn't just we have another night of Brad Berry or another night of Kerry Eads, which we could have done, but that's already being done. That's being done on a Saturday morning show on the Fan. That's being done on pregame before UND. That straight hockey talk was already being done. And what Travis knew was that there was a space there that was untouched. Fans, young players, female executives, people that you might not know were hockey people. And he helped me bring them to the radio because of his vision. And I just think it was the most unique hockey show anywhere, outside of a straight up podcast. In terms of terrestrial radio, I don't think there was another show like that one that we had anywhere in North America.
Yeah, no question. Scott Taylor, again, Derek Hansen, Travis's son, Gary Dunn with us. Our final segment coming up here of Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790, 104.7 KFGO. This is Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790, 104.7 KFGO. Scott Taylor with us up in Winnipeg. Travis Dunn's son, Gary, with us. Derek Hansen with you. And we're just kind of joking. about all the sponsors, and Gary said something funny. We would talk about, Travis went out and he, pitched some of these guys and really got everything going to, sell the show. And Gary, what was your comment to old
habits die hard?
Yeah, old habits die hard. The salesman he always was, and that's certainly no question. That's what he loved to do, and his passion for it, Scott. I mean, the passion to do, to talk about something you love, and I think it's obviously why I got into this business to do that. But boy, it was second to none with him. I mean, there's just no to talk about the sport he loved. And then to go out and get people to get on board with it. It was determination like I've never seen. I wish I still had that spunk in me. I do on a lot of things, but man, it was still there for him.
Well, to make Travis happy tonight, I will say I'm in the Nilles Law Firm Studios South in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Not in the Nilles Law Firm Studios North, which is Winnipeg.
Yeah.
But I know that Travis worked very, very hard to get the golf center on board, because of course he not only was he a golfer, but he was a great client of the golf center.
Correct. Yeah,
he certainly was.
and we talk about the salesman right to the end. I mean, Travis worked very hard to get Jarrell's to come on the show. So I had done these reads for Travis, and I was worried tonight, since they were Travis's clients. I want to make sure that everybody's happy. So if we've determined that tonight's just about Travis, I'm good with that. But when it comes to the ads that he sold, that was Travis too. You're dead on. He loved selling. He really loved it.
Yeah, there's no question. And I think one thing that really comes with all these hockey shows, going back to and Bernie Berggraf was doing it here, God rest his soul, and the passion, and I think it's one of the things where, and me being an amateur wrestling fan, it's kind of the same thing, where it may not be as massive an audience like a football audience, but it's such a loyal niche group that that's where you're going to get advertisers. That's the nice thing about it too, and it also helps that there's a lot of University of North Dakota grads down in this area.
Well, it's the perfect show for this region.
Yeah.
Because high school hockey in Minnesota, North Dakota is gigantic. Up here, we've got a professional team. The Minnesota Wild, of course, are just 3 hours down the road from you. So we're surrounded by pro hockey, college hockey, the USHL, the Manitoba Junior League, the high schools. We have a college team here, and we had a show not long ago getting set up for the University of Manitoba and the University of North Dakota to start the season, as they always do. We had Mike Surratt and Brad Berry on that night to talk about college hockey on both sides of the border. It was a tremendous conversation. And that's the kind of thing that Travis wanted. That's the conversation. We kind of bailed out, and Mike Surratt and Brad Berry had a little conversation about the game they were going to have that Friday night. So it was the way it needed to be for an hour a week in a hockey community. And it brought everybody together. I don't think we missed anything. We had pros, we had juniors, we had high school kids, we had college kids, we had everybody, and fans as well.
Yeah, no question. Scott Taylor and Derek Hansen with you, along with Travis Dunn's son, Gary. And I'm guessing, like when you guys were at the lake, because I would feel it all the time. He'd stop by our place, was just directly across from Lake Quincy. And once it got to about late August, the juices started flowing, didn't it? And I'm sure he's starting around. Well, here's how I'm having the show. It won't be long. And of course, UND is reporting to camp, and it was kind of like clockwork each and every year when he saw the calendar come up.
Oh, yep. Once, but by the time we get to the long weekend for Labor Day, it's
he gets feel it flowing, right?
Yep. It's almost like he's getting a bit antsy, like he needs to get back to it.
That's so true, Scott. Honestly, I'd be sitting in my pontoon, and all of a sudden the speedboat falls up, and hey, guess who I think I got to sponsor the show? I mean, this would be like Labor Day week. I'm like, I was sitting there relaxing with my dogs, thinking about, whatever's going on, and he's got it going already for the show. And I just loved it. I'm going to miss that so much this summer.
Well, we're certainly going to miss it. He would send me an email as if he were a guy who had just won the national championship every time he got a client to sign on the dotted line. It was
100%.
It was a big day for him, always a big day. The other thing was this is a very interesting conversation we had. We had a long first year and the season had ended, but the NHL was still going. And he knew the end date for the show in April. And I said, well, why don't we just keep going? Why don't we just go through the summer? And for about 2 days, he thought about it. And then he sent me an email and then called me on FaceTime and said, nah, I want to go to the lake. Because in the springtime, the only thing on his mind was getting to Detroit Lakes.
Yeah, there's no question.
And then by August, he was ready for hockey again. So this was a guy who had been a hockey player most of his life. He was still living that same schedule. You played hockey till the end of your season, and then you went to the lake and played golf and boated.
Yeah.
And then when August rolled around, it was hockey time again.
Well, he loved that boat too. He's just still getting around it.
He
right?
really did.
I mean, that boat for your mother and him, that was the getaway. I mean, there's just no question. I'd see him on the lake quite a bit. There's no question about that. And it's so funny you say that too, because I think it is kind of a schedule, just a routine, because the season is long. I mean, it's really is. So he always kind of knew when he had to check out too, right? I mean, he worked hard, but he knew how to play hard too and relax when he had to.
Oh yeah, by the end of the season, he was ready for it to be over most of the time. I would say definitely get some lake time in.
Yes. Well, Scott, we'll have to get you on the pontoon when you come through here. We'll have to do that and kind of show you everything, and we'll have to have you out.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no question. We can show you because, well, Gary and I look right across from each other on the bay where my parents live and where they're at. So there's many times where you'd be all of a sudden, I'll be out there working on my pontoon and we'll see the little black and white boat come up, and it was always a good time. That is for sure.
You're in for a conversation.
Yes, exactly. No, that's for sure. That was it too. Well, and I think he would kind of complain about the NHL season going so long, but I'm like, well, let's go in and watch some of the games then. What the heck? You sit in the man cave that I got there at my parents' house right on the water. You might as well catch a little playoff hockey while we're here too, and take it for what it's worth. It is a little weird to be sitting there when it's 80 degrees in Minnesota and you're watching hockey, but we made the best of it. That is for sure. When we come back here, we'll kind of close things up. Madison Quid did a nice a tribute to Travis to kind of wrap things up. Scott Taylor, Derek Hansen, and Travis's son, Gary Dunn, with us here on the Mighty 790 and 104.7 KFGO. This is Game On Hockey.
All right, Scott, you are clear. So I'll walk you through now that we got a second here. I will, Madison put together a video. It's about 3 minutes long. So I'm going to play that on the YouTube.
Game on Hockey. Derek Hansen along with Scott Taylor and Travis Dunn's son, Gary. Madison Quinn put together this little audio tribute here on the radio side and video tribute. You're watching us on the YouTube channel, and take this away. And obviously, this is really well done. And it's obviously going to give us a lot of feels.
Pardon me, Alec Bonovic, an actor, our first time ever a good actor on the show, between a couple of bad actors, Scott Taylor and myself. Alec, this has been just an absolute blast. I think the bottom line is this: if you follow your passion, whether it be in sports or whether it be in acting, you're going to achieve what you've achieved. And I can't, we bypassed your publicist, which apologize to her for that.
It's all good.
It's all good. But Scott, what a great hit. And I hope people out there are laughing and enjoying this as much as I have.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he's from Winnipeg, so he's an old broken down hockey guy anyway.
That's right. We all are eventually.
Yeah, we all are at some point. But...
now. But let's talk in a way that can give us some faith to go around. We'll hold tight as we can when it's better.
Never let it be said that we wouldn't take on a challenge. And here we are from Manila's Law Firm Studio North, situated in the press box at the Ralph Engelstad Arena. Thank you for joining us. This is Game on Hockey. Nice trip up today. The weather was fantastic as I drove up from Moorhead, and Tim Hennessy is situated over to my left, where I'll be sliding over after our show. Great show today. I'm excited to introduce who we're going to be having as guests.
I'll hold on tighter to you, my friend, when we're together again.
As always, with your partner Ole Olsen on the microphone. Yes, you guys.
Let me say this.
Yes.
I've never met Scott. I've listened to a lot of your guys' stuff. I respect you so much. Very intelligent, very hockey wise, and you really entertain me every time I listen to you guys, and I appreciate being on with you, Scott.
Wow, I take
Thanks,
that
Tim.
as
Appreciate that. Thank you.
high compliment coming from the best. Tim, have a good few days off before you start hockey season. We'll see you up in the big city of Grand Forks one of these days, and thanks for joining us for an extended segment on our finale season of the year. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
When we're together again. When we're together again.
Call me on those FaceTime calls, it would brighten my day. And I'm an old guy, and I've still got a full-time job. I'm still working, and it's the hockey business, but it's still things I have to get done. And I'd see FaceTime Travis, and it'd be just like, oh wow, I can have a cup of coffee, and he's going to carry the conversation for the next 10 minutes. And Travis is going to tell me exactly what's going on, and it was just such a pleasure. It was always a pleasure to be around him. We talked with you and Jack Michaels and Brad about the time we met here in Florida. He was down for vacation. Rose and Travis and Sally and I and my daughter Betsy sat around Buffalo Wild Wings watching the Jets in Pittsburgh and talked about everything, like everything. There was nothing that was verboten, and it was just a great evening. And it's an evening that I'll always remember, and it's an evening I'll cherish.
You got about 30 seconds. Gary, thanks so much for coming in. I know this can't be easy. We're thinking about your mother and your sister and you and your whole family, obviously. We'll see you next week, unfortunately, under those circumstances,
Yes.
but looking forward to really celebrating the life of your father, Travis Dunn.
Yes, he'll be missed. He'll be hard to replace.
Yeah, no question. For Gary Dunn, for Scott Taylor. Scott, we'll keep in touch. You're not going to be a stranger to both the fan and right here on KFGO, okay?
Absolutely not. Nope.
You bet. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Again, for Scott Taylor, for Gary Dunn, I am Derek Hansen. Thank you to Eric Johnson for putting this together. UND basketball on the way. And we're certainly going to miss you, Travis Dunn. This has been Game On Hockey on the Mighty 790 at 104.7 KFGO.
Scott, I don't. Oh no.